Coach DeMarco here with another Get Better Basketball Live. Today, my guest is Coach Travis Hardenburger, former head basketball coach at Wamego High School in Kansas, who is now the current middle school basketball coach in Wamego. Coach Hardenburger is going to talk to us about building leadership within your program. This is something that all coaches are going to want to check out. Another Get Better Basketball Live is up now. Coach DeMarco here with Get Better Basketball Live, and today my guest is Coach Travis Hardenburger, former head basketball coach at Wamego High School, who is now the current middle school coach in Wamego. Coach, thank you for joining me once again.
I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Coach, tonight we're going to talk about building leadership within your program, and this is a very interesting topic because you did a couple blog posts, and one of them was on your Unity Council, and highly regarded, got a lot of likes on Twitter, a lot of coaches that are viewing that post. Still to this day, every day I'm getting a couple of views with it. So I feel like you did a really nice job talking about building leadership in the program, in a program. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about it and hear you kind of speak about it as well.
I knew the relationships were important. I knew that developing people was important, but I think I put too much in the X's and O's. And, so 2 years ago, sometimes you got to hit a rough patch so an opportunity presents itself. And, and so I had to do some soul searching, like, what is it that I want this program to be about? And I came across, and I live 10 miles from Kansas State University. So I'm also not a very big Cornhusker fan, but I'm going to give big props to Dr. Tom Osborne, because I found an article where it talked about Dr. Tom Osborne had a unity council for his Nebraska football team. And so I researched it, I read into it, and I said, man, this is perfect. This is perfect. And so we started it, and I can share some of that stuff on what a Unity Council exactly is, but it's been nothing but exceptional for our program.
Yeah, Coach, I would love for you to just take us through the Unity Council and what it's meant to your program, and really thinking about how it's changed. It sounds like it's changed your perspective a little bit as a coach. So interested to kind of hear kind of both sides of the conversation.
I had a talk. We had our first Unity Council meeting, because my Unity Council guys, it's made up of 4 8th graders and 3 7th graders. And we have meetings every Monday or every Friday. And I told them, I said, I started out and I said, I'd rather coach a team that's 0-14, but are good people, than coach a bunch of guys that are 14-0 and not good people. And so we have a big discussion on, look, if you can be a good person, and you can be good at it at home and in school, basketball becomes easy. And I know that's hard. Sometimes that's hard to grasp and see, but if we can get our kids to doing things right and being leaders, and basketball just becomes so easy, because when you come to basketball, you're not focused on correcting behavior. You're not focused on pulling a kid to the side and talking to them how they were a punk in math class, because they're doing things right all the time. And our kids have really bought into that. So it's a big deal. And so if I can share my screen, this is the mission of our Unity Council. And like I said, you have to have 4 8. I like to have 7, because when we vote, there's never a tie. And so we have 4 8th graders and 3 7th graders. We give them athlete ownership and empowerment of team decision-making. There's more athlete to athlete and athlete to coach communication, more athlete self-discipline. They live a code, and you better walk that line and live that code. That's tough to do in middle school. And the athlete think and question versus traditional model being told what to do. And I also want to hit upon to the younger coaches. And I heard this from Buzz Williams, who I love, Buzz. And Buzz was talking about the other day, there's a lot of coaches out there that we've got to learn how to get into the world of the athletes we coach. Because I think there are a lot of coaches out there that it's my way or the highway, and this is the way we do it, and this is the way I was coached when I was younger. It's not the same anymore. The world is changing, and kids are changing, and we can't just tell them what to do. We have to give them empowerment. We have to give them, make them feel a part of it. And then last one, I love setting in unity council meetings, and the guys love it too, is I got to admit my mistakes. And if I admit it to my unity council, they're spread, like I said, you guys got to go out and talk. These are player representatives voted on by our team. We've already had our vote. They vote on the 7. These are the 7 guys they want representing the team.
Coach, I did want to ask just about the voting process, just before we get into the mission statement here or some of the objectives. But, with the 7 players, how does that, it sounds like the players vote. Is that solely based on the player vote? And do you typically try to do 4 8th graders, 3 7th graders? Is that just how it worked out this year? What do you recommend for coaches? I see a lot of coaches watching saying, I would love to do this with my team, whether they're a college coach, a high school coach, a middle school coach, tons of value. I love this idea, but how does that part of it work?
If I was a high school coach, I'd probably stagger it. And and the reason I give 4 8th graders is I give my 8th graders more ownership, because they've been, I say middle school is like JUCO. Yeah, I get you 2 years and then poof, you're gone, And so my 8th graders, I give them more ownership because they've been there longer than my 7th graders that are new. If I was doing it in the high school, and if I ever coach high school again, you bet the unity council's going in. I'd give my seniors the most, and I don't know what that would be, 3, and then everybody else 2. I don't know how it would be. We'd have to rethink it. But the guys that have been there the longest and invest the longest, I tend to give them more say. So we go 4 8th graders because they've been there. When we vote, you see on my screen what's the criteria. You got to have a 3.6 GPA. You can't have an in-school suspension, an out-of-school suspension, no detentions. You have to be viewed as the best of the best in our school. And we have three pillars: respond, don't react; listen, don't talk; think, don't assume. And that's the thing that I'm trying to teach the kids. Is the problem with our world today. We respond on social media we react rather than respond. We don't listen enough, and you need to think more than you just assume. And so getting kids to understand that, and part of Unity Council is fostering that leadership. We spent 2 weeks last year talking about the Mamba mentality right after the unfortunate death of Kobe. So there's tons of opportunities here. So I hope
Coach,
that
just thinking about the 3 pillars that you mentioned, is that something you got from Tom Osborne, or are those things that you've created, and have you morphed kind of his idea into how it kind of fits what works for you?
This is crazy because I'm about to say this kind of morphed between Tom Osborne and Buzz Williams. I love Buzz. I love listening to Buzz his podcasts, his little clips. Buzz had that, and I stole it from Buzz. I think he's great. So we stole those 3 things from Buzz, and we try to teach them. We try to get kids to understand those big 3. And when they figure that out, they start to see a light bulb goes off. So they say, okay, I want to be in Unity Council. And so how do we lead by example? You have to encourage a healthy conflict. And sometimes with a team, you'll get those moments in practice where the competitive juices take over. How do you respond to that? Good leaders know how to respond and respond, don't react. Leaders make individual commitments before the team and encourage others to do so. We have our little powwows at the end of practice where we circle up, and we'll do some share outs. And so, I'll take one guy. I said, who's got something great to say about another teammate? And they'll say it. And if they pick someone out, now that guy has to say something good about another teammate. Leaders hold themselves and others accountable. When they buy into this, man, they'll start they'll start holding other teammates. They'll say, hey man, why aren't you sticking around for a little bit and putting up free throws? Don't complain if you miss in the game. It's really cool to see. Leaders are responsible for monitoring the team's pulse and action. So when I get this Unity Council in, last year I had the Unity Council come in and say, Coach, our legs are shot. We need Monday off. We have nothing left. I'm going to listen, because listen, if you're going to do Unity Council, it's commitment, and you're giving players responsibility. You better listen to them when they say we need time off. And then leaders challenge the team and help raise individual and team expectations. So again, it's all about ownership with the Unity Council. Unfortunately, last year we had a situation where we had a player violate rules more than once, and it became a big problem. And instead of the coaches making the decision, we had 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and 14-year-olds come in and have a conversation in a meeting room about whether or not to keep this teammate around. And the cool point of that meeting was a player stood up and said, if we're going to live by this code, he's not living by it, and we don't need that around. And right then and there, I'm going, wow, this is working. And so our players voted to vote him off. And here's where it came in. And coaches, man, takes so much off you. The Unity Council makes the rules for the team, not you. You guide them. But when I said in my parent meeting, I say, hey, look, these are the Unity Council. These are the team's rules. And so when we start that rule meeting, my Unity Council, I say, go out and get the pulse of the team. Share with them what we're talking about and see if they like it and if they have anything they'd like to see added. And now it becomes their rules. And so if we have a player break a rule and a parent comes to me and says, well, this isn't fair, I said, well, I didn't make these rules. The players did. And I have total backing from my administration on this. It's worked really well. The last 2 years we've done it, there's been no questioning rules and the consequences. When you say, well, the players made it, that's a conversation I had with parents of the player that got kicked off was, hey, I'm not deciding this. This is up to the team, the Unity Council. They're going to vote on this. I mean, what do you say to that? But nothing, but you look back and you step back and you go, man, these kids, I teach basketball and how to be a good person, and I foster that leadership. These kids are learning how to develop as future leaders. And that's our biggest goal. So I'm telling the coaches out there, all the young guys, don't get wrapped up in the X's and O's. If you can get the kids and get their act together and teach them and foster this, man, basketball practice is going to be easy. It really, really is. And you're going to have a lot of success.
Coach, you made a great point in terms of how you're building leaders here. And I just think of, we want kids to be leaders. We want, people, you throw the word captain around a lot, but how do you teach them to be leaders? And what you're demonstrating, what you're showing coaches here is you're teaching them. They're very invested and involved in the process. And I have to think that makes it a lot more fun for them. It has to make it more enjoyable to know their voices being heard. Coach is listening to us. He values what we have to say. We have a stake in this. So the buy-in must be really strong, especially as you do this from one year to the next, and your seventh graders who become eighth graders now know the process, and they're kind of bringing the new group of seventh graders into it. So it must be really cool, but the buy-in must be really nice for you as a coach, I would think, with them being so involved.
The days of my way, the highway are over. I mean, you've got to get into the world of them. You've got to understand their world. And all they want to do is feel like they own something that's theirs. And our buy-in is tremendous. We get darn near 100% buy-in. The kids love it. And it's really neat. Now, how you teach leadership is up to you. I try to teach my Unity Council how to be leaders, and then that kind of trickles down. If we do an article review in Unity Council, we'll talk about it when we circle up at the end of practice and have a talk, and they'll share out, and that usually stimulates discussion. But it's just so many great opportunities. You got to give the players ownership. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier in my career. Instead of saying these are my rules, you don't break them, or this is going to happen, or that, or they just want to be talked to like they're humans. And
yeah, you get a lot more ownership and buy-in that way. And everything you're saying, Coach, is really spot on here. And I'm curious, I'm seeing number 9, that the leaders, develop the mission statement, the goals, the purpose. You mentioned they develop the rules. So what you're saying is from one year to the next, one team to the next, your purpose, your mission, which makes sense. It could be different from year to year. Do you see a big difference as you go from last year to this year to 2 years ago, whatever it is?
We keep the same team motto is we rise by lifting others, and we live it, but they're different goals within the team. 2 years ago, I had a team that was on a mission to prove a lot of doubters that they wanted to prove they could be good. And that was their mission within what we do. And they realized that they could fit the we rise by lifting others into that. And if everybody came into practice and started feeling good, if a point guard tells a post, man, thank you for busting your butt, I appreciate you run up and down the floor, they're going to feel good about themselves, and practice is going to be good. You get that positive in practice all the time. And we drill it. Lift each other up. Coaches have to model that, though. We have to praise people. If I got 5 guys doing something wrong, but I got 1 guy doing something right, I got to stop practice and point out the guy doing something right rather than the 5 doing something wrong.
Yeah, that positivity, positive reinforcement makes such a difference. So you mentioned there's meetings involved. Do you have like a set time where the Unity Council meets? And then what do those meetings typically look like?
We meet every Friday at 7:15. My middle school guys can't drive, so it's the parents, and my parents are great. They get the kids to the meetings. I'll send the agenda out ahead of time, and the guys will know what we'll be discussing. They knew the first meeting we had the other day was about rules and the development of the rules. So they came in with the mindset of what we're doing. As we get into the season, it'll be more about, I'll see something really cool, whether that's a Buzz Williams video, an article about Kobe, and then we'll take time to read it or watch it and have a discussion. How can we share this out to the team? How can we implement it within our own team? And then we just leave it open for discussion. And we encourage our kids to talk about it and share out. So there's really not a really stringent format, but I like to let them know ahead of time what we're doing.
How involved do you have to be? So it sounds like the kids really develop the rules, but coaches that are thinking about this, first year they're going to incorporate this leadership, this Unity Council, How involved were you in that first year with the rules, or even from year to year? Like, has there ever been a time where you've said, this might not be a good fit, but let's talk about it. Tell me what your thought process is. Have you had some rules that have come up where, you may not have agreed with them? And what do you do in a situation like that, especially if it's your first year with the Unity Council?
I kind of give them a template. And I said, all right, guys, here's what we're doing. We're going to talk about bus rides, because every coach knows about those. We talk about bus rides, bench behavior. So I give them topics, and I was like, what do we need to develop with these? And you'll be surprised, because those guys know, like bench behavior 2 years ago, they're like, well, we knew a guy last year that was sneaking his phone onto the bench. And so we need to have something in there about phone etiquette. Boom, there you go. I mean, these kids, and you say, I'm not going to get mad at you if you bring something up. We just want to get better. And they'll spill their guts, and they'll say that we need to do this, this, and this. We did bus rules the other day, and you'd be surprised. Bus rules change now. You got to masks on. They want to crack a window to keep the airflow in the bus. And, we don't do, you can't, the only thing you can be on your phone with is music. And if you need to text a loved one, and that's it. And they enforce it with each other. So give them topics and watch it explode in that meeting. You have to cut them off because they want to throw everything into the rules.
And is there a process to them narrowing down? Is it that they should have X amount of rules, or is there, because to your point, they could go on, like, come up with rules for rules. So is there a process as they're developing those rules, or do they vote on a top X amount of rules?
That's why you have 7. You vote. Usually they're unanimous. Sometimes you have to step in as the coach and say, yeah, that's a little far-fetched. Let's go back and revisit it again sometime. But the 7, you got to have the odd number, because middle school kids, man, they're heavily influenced by their peers. So if one kid votes one way, they might vote the same. So if you got 7, you're assured that it's going to pass or fail. And it's worked out really well. It takes a lot of burden. It's taken a lot of burden off me. And it's really fun to tell a parent, I didn't make these rules, the kids did. And you can't say anything. It's like kids are being leaders. Can't get mad at that. It's a beautiful thing. I encourage you to try it, and the young coaches out there, it will help you. So,
Coach, we've talked a couple times, and you've kind of mentioned, we're kind of self-reflection and where you started as a coach and where you are now, and really thinking about practices for coaches. How does this fit into practice, and what advice do you have for coaches as it pertains to practice, but really thinking about this leadership aspect? Because I do agree. I feel like if you have a group of kids that buy in and you're developing leaders in your program and building relationships, and all of that is the hard part. And then once you get that stuff to really head in a positive direction, the other stuff is going to come along, and it makes the other stuff that much easier. So how do you incorporate this in the practice? And, what advice do you have for coaches that might want to do it this year with their team?
So with leaders, the biggest question I have for coaches, can your kids start your practice? If you were gone and you looked over to Tony, your point guard, and said, hey man, start practice, do they know what to do? I mean, it has to be routine. We do the same first 15 to 20 minutes every day. It's a routine. My guys can go in and start practice if they need to. They know exactly how to do it. And along those lines, I remember as a young coach getting into practice, starting practice, and going over my assistant going, oh my gosh, this is the worst practice ever. What's wrong with these guys? And then now I go back and I look and I go, well, idiot, you started practice with probably the most boring, worst drill of all time. And so we do a drill after we do all our shooting warm up and our things to get going. We do a drill. We call it 110 drill. And again, I stole this from Roy Williams in North Carolina, and the Lakers do it actually. We should probably not call it the 110 drill. We should probably call it like the 75 drill. Because it's layups and 3-pointers, and it's full court passing, and you get 4 minutes, and they're trying to break their record every day, and it's competitive. So I'll say, guys, you got 62 yesterday. You got to get 63, and it's competitive, and they're moving, and practice just goes. They know that I could be gone for the first 25 minutes of practice, and my guys are going to know. That's leadership. For them, that's not credit to me. That's them. They know. But you have to have that in your system. Can your guys start practice for you? If they can't, you're trying to do too much and you're overloading them. Keep it simple. Get them loose, shooting progression, get a couple drills going, get the big drill where they're moving. Practice is going to go. I promise. And that might be a time where they don't break their record, which happens more than they do. But you got to find, hey, we were better at layups today, fellas. We were better at layups today, and pump them up a little bit and say, man, that was awful. We couldn't hit water if we fell out of a boat. But find that way. So it translates a little bit into that ownership. I walk around and help, correct and teach, and they know exactly where to go in that first time because practice schedule is posted. And if you don't mind, I just have a few things to fit in here, Coach. If I could give some young dudes some advice that I wish I had when I was younger. I encourage you guys to evaluate the drills you're doing. Do they fit what you do as a coach and your program is doing? As a young coach, I say, oh my gosh, I watched this DVD about Bobby Knight was talking and he showed these drills. And then we go do them and practice them. And I look back and I'm going, I was an idiot. They had nothing to do with what we were trying to do as a program. Do the drills fit your program? Don't put a drill in because it was cool and you saw it on TV or a video. Evaluate it. If it doesn't fit you, don't put it in practice. Like I said, don't complain about a bad start of practice if you're not getting kids going. If you're going to start kids with a Z drill, a zigzag drill, oh man, that's like the worst drill ever to start practice. They're not, or 3-man weave. You got to have a competitiveness to it. We have a saying in practice, we don't have an out of bounds when we compete in practice. We don't. If there's a loose ball, our guys are going. Now I got to blow the whistle if it's getting close to the bleachers or the wall. But if you don't have an out of bounds, kids are going to die for more loose balls. It's going to be more competitive. We just get after it. The blood's got to get, it gets got to go. Here's the other piece of advice, and I'll close with this, Coach. I wish I knew it when I was younger, how to communicate with parents. It's not about sending an email. It's not about sending a text. It's about making parents feel a part of your program. They have to have ownership too. And 2 years ago, we started a few things, and I'll talk about them real quick. We have a thing we call family night, and it's right before our season starts. Obviously, COVID hit, and this year we probably won't get to have it. But right around January 3rd, before our season starts and we're on Christmas break, we have family night, and that's our red-white scrimmage. And it's a potluck. And our guards and our posts and our managers and coaches all bring something different. And we go in and we have our scrimmage, and afterwards we go out and we have a big potluck. Parents, grandparents, players, and it's a great way to start your season. I let the parents in charge of the potluck. Again, it's about giving them ownership. It's about giving them ownership. The other one I think is really cool, and I stole this from one of my mentors. We call it the family walk, and it's and this will be really cool for seniors. Do it. Is on the last home game, we invite the parents into the locker room, and they're a part of the pregame. They hear the scouting report. They hear us walking through. But then you get a chance to have that one-on-one. I do with my 8th graders, that chance to have that one-on-one with the parents and say, look, your kids are special. We love them to death. We hate to see them go. We really do. We love our kids. And it's heartfelt. And the parents put stuff together for the kids. It's really, really cool. And then when it happens, when we leave the locker room, they go arm in arm with their son, and they walked with them to the court down the hall. And it's special. And I can't imagine if it was seniors, how special that would be. Invite your grandparents into the locker room. Have a grandparent night. Invite them into the locker room. Let them see what you do. Let them be a part. We do one more thing over Christmas break. We invite parents to practice. We have an upper deck, and sometimes I'll put donuts up there. And, you know, I had one say, hey, grandpa's in town. Can he come to practice? Yes. Bring him to practice. Make him feel a part of it. Don't push him away. The parents are a big part of what you do, and get them involved as much as you can.
I think that's great advice for coaches. I think it's so important, and it's part of that relationship building with the kids and their families and I remember we always did the potluck. We had a scrimmage on a Saturday morning, and the Friday night after practice, we did a nice potluck, and we had all the families together at one of the players' houses, and it was a really, really nice time for us, to just kind of let loose and let everyone just have a good time, and a lot of good food too. So
Well, hey, young coaches are usually single guys and they're hungry. Hey, leaders eat last, guys. Leaders eat last. Go to the back of the line.
It was always a lot of fun, and it was a special time for us as a team, and those are great ideas. And I do think for younger coaches, sometimes they're intimidated by opening practice up a little bit, or opening themselves up a little bit, and there's a process to that. And I think when you realize how to bring families into the process, bring players together, and I think goes a long way. So that's great advice, and really everything that you talked about today. I feel like for coaches, there's so many great takeaways and things that they can think about, or things to consider, whether it's a unity council or some of the other stuff you just talked about now. So if coaches do want to reach out to you, I think you had one more slide there at the end that had some information. So if we could just pull that up, Coach, I think it'd be helpful, because I feel like you are going to get questions about the Unity Council. They're probably all going to Google Dr. Tom Osborne and Unity Council and get some ideas, but you're living it, you're doing it. And I can see how passionate you are about it, and the difference it's making for you as a coach, and also the lives of your players. They're so lucky to have someone like you who is teaching them to be leaders, is teaching them more than just basketball. I know that they see it, and I know their families probably see it as well, and they're very fortunate to have that. So if coaches do want to reach out to learn more about it, I'm seeing the info up there.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. Send me a message. I don't, I'm lucky to have good people around me. I have great assistants. One of my assistants is a pastor in town. He does a lot of youth stuff. My goodness, so lucky. And my other two 7th grade coaches are young and energetic and do good things. And then my administration is great. They're supportive, and they foster great leadership. So I'm lucky. Hit me up on Twitter. Let's talk some hoops. And I stole all this stuff, so I'll send it to you. Make it your own. Do what you want with it. But like I said, I'm just a middle school coach, an old high school coach. I'm like everybody else. I'm just trying to help young people be better people and basketball players.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Coach, and I hope we can do this again. I know you got the season coming up, and I want to wish you best of luck. And I would love to follow up with you again, maybe after the season, and we can maybe expand on some of this stuff, or even just talk about some of the things you learned from this season. I feel like you have a lot of different experiences, a lot of years coaching, and really appreciate all that you've had to share.
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks for having me tonight. It's been fun talking some hoops.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to coaches like yourself and do this on a weekly basis. And I learned something new, every week, every coach I talk to. So it's been a lot of fun, and it was great talking to you tonight, Coach.
Thanks for having me. Have a good week.